In this episode, let's have a look at 3 different gimbals for DSLR or mirrorless hybrid cameras. Now, first of all 3 of these gimbals are very, very good and much easier to use than first-generation motorized gimbals. So they all have toolless design and are easy to balance once you learn the proper way to do it, which you can find in this video over here. So if you've already bought one of these and you're watching to see if you made a good decision, yes, I can assure you made a good decision. All 3 of these are great. I would highly recommend you spend time with it, get to know how to use it to its full potential, and get out there and shoot. And stop wasting your time watching my review. In this case, I tested each of these with my Panasonic GH5, and what we're going to do is kind of run through my impressions of what the highlights are and potentially areas where each of them could improve. First up, we have the Zhiyun-Tech Crane 2. This is the larger crane, not the original or the Crane V2, just to be clear. I do have a full review of this one you can find over here. This one is the one that can carry the largest payload in terms of overall weight. So it can carry up to 3.2 kilograms, that's 7 pounds. It also includes the best tripod that comes with them. It's an all-metal design, which works really, really nicely, and is really helpful for getting things set up, and it also sort of extends the handle a little bit too, so you can hold on to it with both hands. One of the things I really like about it is that it has this feature I like to call push to aim. I don't know exactly what it's called, but what you do is you literally grab the camera, aim the gimbal where you want it, and the gimbal figures, oh, that's where they want to point. So it actually just stays there. It's a very, very nice feature to get set up quickly instead of using the joystick, which sometimes can take a while to kind of fine tune. The knob on the side allows you to pull focus on the Canon 5D Mark III or IV. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with a lot of other cameras, but that's mainly a limitation from the camera manufacturers and not from the Crane itself. It does include a good, easy-to-use app with easy calibration and a way to customize the controls, and also to remotely control the gimbal. The battery life on the Crane 2 is phenomenal. It's rated at actually up to 18 hours if you're using a really light camera. In my typical use, I think we're finding closer to 12, but really, I don't run up against that issue because even on a production day, I may be using it for maybe 4 hours max. And if you tried to go 12 hours, your arm would probably fall off. And one of the headline features on the Crane 2 is its OLED screen, which allows you to see exactly which mode you're in. And it also includes the ability to go into a menu and fine-tune the settings without having to connect the app, which makes a big difference when you are actually in the middle of production. Trying to hold a phone and navigate around and holding the gimbal at the same time is a little bit of a challenge, so having that menu right on the gimbal makes it a lot easier. The Crane 2 does not come with a dual handle. You actually have to purchase that separately, and it runs about $100 US. And then, of course, if you do add that dual handle, you don't have controls on the 2 handles that you're holding onto. It still is on the center column or the main handle. So that's a little bit of a downside as well. But overall, the Crane 2 is a fantastic gimbal. Next up, we have the Feiyutech A2000. This is a new offering from Feiyutech. A lot of pros here. It's a very lightweight gimbal. The controls are integrated into both the pistol grip and the dual handle grip, which is also included. And it also includes a trigger button where your index finger sits on the back side of the handle. This is a really nice design, and it's really fantastic that on the dual handle design, you get the controls on one of the dual handles. There are a whole host of 1/4-20 taps for attaching additional gear to your gimbal here, especially when you're using the dual handle. That allows you to connect monitors, microphones, other things of that nature so that you don't throw the balance of the camera off. Again, another very thoughtful design feature. Also, very good battery life on the A2000. I was able to use it through an entire production day. And again, for me, using the gimbal is not something I do through the entire production day. So for me, that's really kind of a 3 to 4 hours is really, really nice. As long as it can go to 6 hours, I'm usually good. They claim it goes up to 12. I haven't run up against that limit yet. And the A2000 also includes a small plastic and metal tripod. Now, on the con side, the first and main thing for me, and this is again very particular to my style of shooting, a lot of times what I'll use a gimbal for is to get a crane style shot. And what I do with that is I put the gimbal on the top of a monopod, and then I fly that out at its end and do a full crane shot. And the thing that I found that works best for those crane shots is to put the gimbal in lock mode. The trick with the Feiyutech A2000 is that to put it in lock mode, you use the trigger button, but you have to hold the trigger button in unless you go and get the app and change it to lock mode. So for me, that was a little bit of a con, so I have to use the app to put it into lock mode before I do a crane shot. Not insurmountable, but it would be nice to be able to do that directly on the gimbal itself. And while it's nice it comes with the tripod is not wide enough to actually inspire confidence. I actually have had it almost tip over before, especially once you put your camera on it. So you have to be kind of careful with that. When using the dual handle grip, I did notice when I walked really, really roughly that in some cases I did get some jitter. It seemed like there was some play in the overall dual handle grip. But again, that's not typically how you're going to be using a gimbal. You're going to be walking smoothly. So not something to be really worried about, just something to keep in mind. So overall, the A2000 is a fantastic gimbal as well. I'm really impressed with what they've done. And finally, up to the Gudsen, I think that's how you say it, Moza Air. The Moza Air has been a very popular gimbal as well. This one is also very lightweight. It does also have the option for a Bluetooth remote. The latest firmware, which just came out a couple of days ago, also includes an auto-tune feature, which is really nice so that you can get it essentially calibrated in just a couple of seconds without having to take the whole thing apart and take the camera off. Really nice feature. And then finally, in terms of battery runtime, we're looking at about 8 hours. Again, that's going to be plenty for the type of work I'm doing. If you need something that goes longer, then perhaps you'll want to look at one of the other options. A few cons. Number one, the remote is pretty pricey. So that's something to keep in mind. I really think the remote makes this a really, really impressive overall package, but that does add about $200 to the price tag. The Moza Air does not come with a quick release system. You actually have to attach it to the base plate on the gimbal itself. Although it doesn't come with a quick release, it is very nice that it comes with a thumb screw, so it's pretty quick to get it on and off, but it's not the same as a quick release. The downside of a quick release is that the other two gimbals use quick release plates, but to do that, they have to use screws. So it's not a thumb screw. It's actually something you have to use a coin or another key to unlock it. So it's kind of a trade-off. In this case, you can add a quick release plate for about $30 US. And the Moza Air does not come with a tripod, so you're on your own for that. So in overall summary, I think each of these gimbals really hold their own. They each have a really great set of features. They all are toolless designs, so getting them balanced is you don't have to have any tools. You just loosen the knobs and get them all lined up. And once you get that process down, you can generally do it in about a minute. If you have one of the larger cameras, one of the DSLRs, the Crane 2 may be the best option there, again, because it can carry the heaviest payload. I have to do a little kind of warning here, though. A lot of people asked me when I did the Crane 2 review if you could fly something like a Canon C200 on the Crane 2. My friend Jacob and I actually tried that a couple of days ago. Technically, it is possible. However, there are some caveats. Number one, because the C200 is so much larger than DSLRs or other mirrorless cameras, you don't get a lot of clearance. So you can't, for example, just go into inverted mode from upright mode without actually taking the camera off and putting it in inverted mode and then putting it back on. So that doesn't really work well. And then there's something funny with the Crane 2 where if you start in inverted mode, it gets a little bit confused. So again, if you're going to fly a bigger camera like the C200, I really recommend you look at a bigger gimbal than these three. Overall, Feiyutech did a really nice job with their A2000 gimbal. I really like that it has integrated controls on both the dual handle and the single pistol grip. That's a really, really nice feature that we didn't see on either of the other two. And overall, it works very smoothly, and again, a good app to work with it. Gudsen seems to be doing a really nice job pushing innovation. They're trying to do some really creative things. They have the motion time-lapse feature, which looks really cool. We're going to get into that a little bit more in a future episode. This is also the least expensive of the three gimbals at about $500 US. Once you add the remote, if you choose to do that, that takes it up to about $700, which is closer to the other two. But again, it's a trade-off. And the Gudsen Moza Air is really a very nice gimbal as well. So if you were hoping for me to choose one, I'm sorry I can't do that. I would just look at these different features and the table that we had at the start of the video and decide which features are most important for you. And I think, again, you can get great results, very smooth footage with any of these three gimbals. I hope that was helpful for you. Go ahead and leave any questions you have down below. If you've not already subscribed, make sure you do that. And if you would like to be notified each time a new episode comes out, make sure you click the bell icon, and we'll talk to you again soon.